Like we don't need to be apologizing for 9/11 because technically, like, we didn't do it. Did my fucking family just jump in a plane and be like, yo, let's go blow some shit up, bro? Like, no, bro. I did not fucking do it. You did not do it. The Muslim people did not do it. Bush did.
There has been a plane crash on the southern tip of Manhattan.
Oh, there's another one. Another plane just hit. Right? Oh, my God.
There were some Muslims in America happy about the attacks. That has been established beyond a reasonable doubt.
Donald Trump shameful for saying American Muslims cheered as the Twin Towers came tumbling down on 9/11.
There's a lot of verses in there absolutely bluntly saying that you are to take off at the head of those that do not agree with you, and you are to go after those that do not believe in Allah.
I don't remember 9/11 because I'm 18 and I wasn't born yet, but it's definitely had an impact on my life.
So 9/11 happened, I wasn't even in this country. I was 4 years old and I was in Jordan at the time. Coming back from the airport was very different from when we went to the airport. And I remember recalling this very specifically because I never saw somebody put my hands on my mom like that before. And I never saw so many people go up to my mom like that before. It was really weird.
No, I do not remember 9/11. I was 1 year old. I was one.
A lot of people stopped going to the masjid because it was a place of target for people. So for their own safety, they stayed home. But on the flip side of that, those who did go to the masjid for Jummah, you can see that across the world, that people were simply in mourning for the people who lost their lives in 9/11. We were making dua for them. Yeah, I remember that. I remember praying, making duas for them all. And we continue to make duas today as well.
I was about 5 years old and I ended up going to school and I saw my teacher crying. My speech teacher, she was crying, and it was because her son was in the building and he actually passed away.
The first time, I would say like the first time I ever heard about 9/11, I was like 6 years old.
Oftentimes I felt really uncomfortable because I was the only Muslim in the classroom.
9/11 impacted my life because I grew up in a small town in Kentucky.
I grew up in a very Caucasian town. I was like one of maybe 3 Muslims in my school.
I wanted to conform really badly. I wanted to be like my friends. I wanted to be whitewashed, essentially. I started going by a completely different name. For a long time. My American name was Erica.
I used to hear jokes all the time. Maybe I'd get upset when I was younger.
It only took me a few years to realize that I could change my name and I could dress a certain way, try all of these things to be more like them, and they would still see me as someone who didn't belong.
It's affected every single Muslim in the United States, not even in America, across the world.
Racism was on the rise. I felt a little bit of it. Even in school, lost some friends.
My dad and his brothers were victims of police brutality just for being Muslim. He literally was attacked in his own store.
I remember my parents and my siblings having it very tough, especially my sisters who are hijabis.
It was really dangerous to kind of wear hijab out, wear a headscarf. At airports, I was always pulled aside. My family was always pulled aside.
Being outwardly Muslim is not only something to be proud of, but it's also something to be careful of because of how other people perceive you. I think it's really sad that something that we decide to wear on our bodies really affects other people and how uncomfortable it makes them.
At the airport, I might have a harder time in TSA because I wear a hijab now. And honestly, Sikh people have so much to deal with because of this.
I remember being in school one day and my history teacher was telling me how he was in New York a year after 9/11, and some guy who wasn't even Muslim, but he was Sikh and he had a turban. He was attacked because some lady in a restaurant yelled terrorist, and he was attacked by a bunch of random people. He wasn't even Muslim.
I was 5 years old and people were looking at me so different because of my religion and where I came from. A 5-year-old didn't do this.
There was this constant fear that we have to unlearn now, and it's kind of our generation's problem to unlearn it and to educate people on unlearning it.
I can't say Bismillah, I can't say Allahu Akbar.
When you play Call of Duty and you see people on their mics screaming it out, it's fun and games, but at the same time, you need to know the essence of this beautiful phrase in Islam.
It's the biggest thing. Jihad is correlates in the media and perception of Americans and perception of people around the world as blowing yourself up and blowing up a building. That's absolutely not what it means. What does it mean?
I find myself like Americanizing words, so I wouldn't say Ramadan, I would say Ramadan, or I don't say Muslim, I say Muslim.
You know, anything that sounds Arabic or even like sound, you know what I'm talking about? Like anybody says like people get freaked out, like, oh my God, like what is he gonna do? Or like names of cities. Like names of cities people hear on the news and they affiliate to certain situations. Like Hezbollah, Islamabad, Iraq, Iran, Iran, Pakistan, Afghan.
But yeah, I mean, you know, if you're on the 6 train in Manhattan and your adhan goes off and everybody's staring at you, like unfortunately, it's a very uncomfortable situation. It actually happened quite a few times, but yeah, it's just, you know, it comes down to educating people. Like, hey, this is simply a call to prayer. Just like how the churches have their bells, we have the human voice to call to prayers.
So I think that if people take the time to actually look at the meaning, then they'll understand that it's not something that's dangerous or scary.
You can't stop Islamophobia. You really can't. There's too much ignorance in the world. To combat Islamophobia, you have to teach people about Islam.
First, we need to make people know that Islam as a faith would never condone the acts of terrorism that we saw in 9/11.
The people responsible for 9/11, I will even go as far as saying I don't consider them Muslims. When you hurt any human being, that's just against the teachings of Islam. You're just not supposed to do it. So
I think one way we can fight Islamophobia is just by being ourselves. You can sit here and educate people, you can sit here and tell them the religion is this, that, and the third, but at the end of the day, actions speak louder than words.
When this all happened, I was scared. I was so scared to be like, I'm Arabic and I'm Muslim, and because if I do, they're gonna look at me weirdly. And I didn't want to be bullied. I didn't want to be the outcast. I wanted to fit in with my friends. I wanted my teachers to like me. How I feel right now about it, I feel amazing. I'm so proud to say I'm Muslim, that I'm Jordanian.
It just took me people who accepted me, people who, you know, didn't judge me for being Muslim, meeting people who kind of empowered me to learn more about my religion and kind of embrace it without feeling like I was that I had to apologize for something that I never did.
It turns out that from 2001 to 2011, so in those 10 years, a significantly amount of people converted to Islam. In those 10 years after 9/11, because people started looking into what is Islam. That makes me so happy to be Muslim, because when people see it right away, off rip, even something like Googling a small word, like, wait, I really like this. I actually want to look into it more. And I wish everybody would do that, but they don't.
Overall, it's 2021. We're at the 20th anniversary of 9/11, and of course, all Muslims do mourn this day because it was such a terrible day in America's history. But it's been 20 years. The stereotype that all Muslims are terrorists is so outdated at this point.
All this violence, all this media perception, everything like that, that's what really changes the perception of Muslims. Not 9/11, because 9/11 could be forgotten, but no one's letting that happen.
But I do think it's getting better, and I think that is a huge role on other people. I think that non-Muslims play a huge part in kind of enabling and then also breaking down these systems of fear and Islamophobia.
The best thing I can do is be kind and loving and accepting to everyone. And that's quite actually the main thing that guides my life, is just show people that we live by love.
Perfect, that's the last question.
Oh, cool. Yay.